You know, the dust, or confetti in this case, has begun to settle from the Republican convention in Milwaukee. And some folks are actually starting to take a look at the changes in the GOP priorities. And they're starting to ask questions. You know, the Family Research Council has a new publication showing just what was changed when it came to the Republican Party platform. Right, and we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about a new ad that is playing in the state of Tennessee, drawing attention to the role that Senator Marsha Blackburn played in weakening the party's platform on life, marriage, Israel, to name a few issues. Joining me now to talk about this comparison of not between the Republican and the Democrat platform, but the Republican and the Republican platform, what the Republican platform used to say and what it says today. Now, you know, some are just looking at it in, you know, to the 2024 version. You know, it's not strong, but, you know, but when you look at it in the context of what it has said in the past when it comes to life, marriage, family, gender, Israel, it's a big difference. Joining me now to talk about this is the Vice President of Policy and Government Affairs here at the Family Research Council, Travis Weber. Travis, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about this new publication. First, where can folks find it before we go to the content? Where can they find it?
Yeah, we can go to tonyperkins.com and find that it'll be linked there.
All right, so it is a comparison that compares previous platforms with actually the 2016, 2020 platform with the 2024 platform. Let's talk about some of the issues that it looks at.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tony, I'm looking at it right here in front of me, and we have categorized the issue area that we're focused on. So we cover how God is mentioned and appealed to and referenced in the document. We look at the issue of life, marriage, family, sexuality, Israel, religious freedom, and then related issues. We've covered international religious freedom, some of the other issues around education and human sexuality. So you'll find that it's categorized based in those areas.
Let's break this down for just a moment. I want to take these one at a time. I want to start with the issue of God. All right, now this is not an insignificant issue because in 2016, 2020, God is referenced 15 times in the platform as the author of our rights, our freedoms. In the 2024, God is identified, actually just an adjective, God-given rights. So that's a significant deviation from a recognition of where our rights come from.
It is, and we have, what is the difference, folks might ask? Well, there's a number, a shift in the number of times God is referenced. We have to take into account how long the platform is overall, but one can still have an overall impression as well. So there's a shift in the number of times and how God is appealed to or referenced. In 2016, there was a reference to the Declaration of Independence and inalienable rights, natural and God-given rights that were very clearly mentioned. And in 2024, there is only one reference to our rights under God. So it's a reduction in the prevalence, number of times of something being mentioned and how it is mentioned. That is we're looking at in the comparison here.
All right, Travis Weber, let's go to the other issue that's quite big for us here at the Family Research Council, and I think quite significant because for 40 years, the Republican Party has championed the unborn, the right to life, the sanctity of human life. And that's a big issue because it was an aspirational goal. I think it led to the overturn of Roe. It also was a bridge for many, many Christians into the political arena to get involved because the Republican Party made that a priority. How does that compare with past to what we have today in the 2024 platform?
Yeah, so if we look at 2016, 2020, a number of references to life, almost all of those are taken out. And in 2024, there's one reference to life, and it is significantly reduced from 2016, 2020. Tony, one of the most significant changes here, in 2016, we had language that read that we support legislation to make clear that the 14th Amendment's protections apply to children before birth. 2024 says, we believe that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States guarantees that no person can be denied life or liberty without due process, and that states are therefore free to pass laws protecting those rights. That makes no reference to the unborn being protected under the 14th Amendment. As someone could say that includes it, but that language does not include it. And someone can also say it does not, that reference does not include the unborn. So the unborn are not specifically mentioned as included under the 14th Amendment in the 2024 language.
In the 2024 language, where it states that we believe the 14th Amendment, applies to the states and that no person can be denied life or liberty, that's a restatement of the obvious. I mean, that's what the 14th Amendment is there for. What is missing, as you pointed out, which has been there in the past, is its application to the unborn.
That's exactly right. So that shift, we must not paper over that shift. People dealing with this topic and looking at the differences between these platforms have to confront this reality. They might not like confronting it, but they have to confront the reality that this difference is there in the 2016 to 2024 GOP platforms. Tony, a number of other life-related provisions have been removed, including funding or defunding of abortion and provisions that bar taxpayer dollars from going to fund abortions at home, including Planned Parenthood, or abroad. This should be a no-brainer. Nobody should want their taxpayer dollars going to fund this controversial, barbaric procedure. And we need to have moral clarity on that. The United States should not be promoting that as a government policy using our tax dollars at home or abroad, yet the 2024 platform does not deal with that.
Now, what about the issue, then? This is something that has been hard fought in years past, and that is the harvesting of embryos for the purpose of experimentation. This is something going back even to the George W. Bush years, where we had to fight to make sure that we weren't using these frozen embryos for experimentation. I didn't see that in this platform. In fact, in this platform, it actually embraces IVF, which is fine, but there's no boundaries, no barriers, and that could open wide up this experimentation, once again, of human embryos.
That's correct. And the language in 2024 reads, we will oppose late-term abortion while supporting mothers and policies that advance prenatal care, access to birth control and IVF, parentheses, fertility treatments, end parentheses. So there's no guardrails. It doesn't protect those unborn babies from policies or actions of those who would pursue those processes and destroy unborn life. A previous platform had recognized that harm. And so that is an area of difference on the life issue. And again, Tony, we've only been covering the life issue in this recent discussion you and I have been having, discussing the differences from 2016, 2020 to the 2024 platform. We cover a lot of other areas in this document. Some of them we have to recognize. 2024 includes language that is broadly similar or similar in terms of its policy position to 2016 and 2020, but there are significant differences. So we've been talking about the differences. The resource covers the similarities and the differences. Other areas that were in 2016, 2020, like international religious freedom, the role of human rights advocacy around the world, not mentioned at all in 2024. Those were mentioned in 2016 and 2020. And so folks can go to the document, though, and see all that for themselves.
So one last policy, and then I want to ask you some other questions. What about the issue of marriage?
Yeah, so if we look at the marriage provision, we find in 2016, 2020 that there's a definition of marriage and affirms it's between one man and one woman, reading the cornerstone of the family is natural marriage, the union of one man and one woman. 2024 says Republicans will promote a culture that values the sanctity of marriage, the blessings of childhood, the foundational role of families. We will end policies that punish families. So there's an affirmation of families, but there's not a definition of marriage between one man and one woman. That is a change, and that will allow loophole and leeway for people who want to define or try to define marriage is between individuals other than one man and one woman.
Well, and this would allow, I mean, that could even be a big open door to what we've been fighting in these sexual orientation, gender identity laws that are going into various states and jurisdictions. If you can't define marriage and family, I mean, words matter. Definitions are important when you get into public policy. So let me just ask you this question, because some people are saying, well, you know, what difference does it make? It's a platform. Who cares? Nobody reads it. I hear that all the time. So tell me, why does this matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think this matters because it's the foundational policy document that the Republican Party is now putting forward, or at least should be a foundational policy document. In theory, it's supposed to guide the direction of the party. And so we're observing a trajectory here, Tony. We've been discussing movement and change of policy positions in this document in some areas, not every area, but in some areas. And so we, as Christians looking at this, we need to ask, how does it line up with our Christian faith? So we say, some of these areas line up, others do not. And we're concerned about those areas that are not lining up. As Christians, we are looking to Scripture, we're looking to our faith to guide a perspective of society that includes the most blessing, the most flourishing for all human beings. And so it's important because it's guiding a major political party in America. And as believers, we should be able to have a perspective on that in terms of how it lines up with Scripture or it doesn't. Right. And we also need to understand what Scripture says about these issues, and it speaks to them. It speaks to God being the creator of the universe, human life, marriage, family, us being created male and female, the role of Israel in the world, freedom, and a number of other issues. And so these are things we need to be concerned about, to ascertain, to determine what's developing, and to pray into them and be God's representatives where we're placed.
And they follow these platforms. 80% of the times, the parties actually follow what they write down in these platforms as their priorities. And so it does guide it guides the parties. This is what policy we'll be looking at. So I think we do need to pay close attention to this. Now, we're almost out of time here, Travis. I want to ask you one more question, because you watched the process by which this was made. I want to play a clip of the vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance, Senator J.D. Vance, and what he had to say at the convention. Play clip number 7.
My message to my fellow Americans, those watching from across the country, is: shouldn't we be governed by a party that is unafraid to debate ideas and come to the best solution? That's the Republican Party of the next 4 years, united in our love for this country and committed to free speech and the open exchange of ideas.
All right, now, J.D. Vance was not there, so I just want to be very clear. He was not at the platform committee meeting. But I want to ask you, you were sitting in the back of the room. You were one of the few that they allowed in, besides the delegates like myself. Is that what guided the Republican Party when they adopted this platform?
No. What we saw going on in that room was very inconsistent and at odds with what J.D. Vance, the potential vice president, just articulated about the way we should proceed, which I agree with him. We should proceed in view of free and open debate, unafraid of ideas, willing to engage them, because we believe our ideas are the best for the country and for those around us. So that is a positive vision, but what he just articulated was not on display that Monday in Milwaukee, Tony. We saw a fear of ideas, a desire to stifle, not hear about ideas, and suppress the messenger rather than deal with the idea. That is not the right way ahead for the country at any level of government, and certainly not for a party that would want to embrace the free and open debate of ideas.
Yeah, in fact, there was no discussion, and there were no amendments, first time ever that had occurred. And as a result, the chairman of the platform committee was Senator from Tennessee, Senator Marsha Blackburn. And folks, we need you to weigh in with her. And the Faith, Family, and Freedom Fund is actually airing an ad in Tennessee, and I want you to hear it. Play the ad that's airing in Tennessee. Friends, do you know that your Senator, Marsha Blackburn, led the secretive effort to weaken the Republican Party's long-standing pro-life platform? She led the effort to weaken the party's stand on marriage, reduce God to an adjective, weakened the stand for Israel, and walked away from your Second Amendment rights. Call Senator Blackburn at 629-800-6600 and ask her why she led this secretive effort. Call her at 629-800-6600.
Faith Family Freedom Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. faithfamilyfreedom.org.
Folks, we're going to hold the Republican Party to their commitment to allow the free exchange of ideas and debate. And it's important that we not go silent. We're not going to let the left take our voice, and we're not going to let the right take our voice. We're going to speak up, and we're going to speak truth. And I need you to help me. If you live in Tennessee, give Marsha Blackburn a call, 629-800-6600, and ask her why she led this effort. Travis Weber, thanks so much for joining us. Always great to see you here on Washington Watch.
Thank you, Tony.
And folks, you can get a copy of the document and see it for yourself. Go to TonyPerkins.com and you can download it. All right, it's been a crazy day here in our nation's capital, but thanks for sticking with us here on Washington Watch. And until next time, let me encourage you to pray. Let me encourage you to vote. And let me encourage you to continue standing for truth and standing with us as we do so.